Anne Arundel County is a beautiful place. It's really a microcosm of the United States. The fourth largest jurisdiction in Maryland. We're at over 580,000 now, and we have BWI Airport. Between Baltimore and Washington in that corridor, we have 530 miles of coast right up against the Chesapeake Bay. And of course, we're the capital of Maryland. People come here because it's got urban, rural, suburban. It's really a fantastic place to live.
Our award-winning park system has 130 community parks and 6 regional parks. We have 7,100 acres of recreational land, 9,100 acres of natural resource land, and park systems for everyone that lives in and outside of the county.
And Arundel County's done a good job of building our relationships with the community. That helps us make not just the critical decisions, but sound decisions, because we're hearing from a segment of everyone.
There are really two things that I think are important for a government. The first is to restore trust. That means restoring trust between people, restore trust in what local government does. And so we've created a thing called Open Arundel, where the residents can go in and look at the performance metrics for every department of county government, and they can engage as well. We do budget town halls in every district, and we make sure that everybody's voice is heard.
Thank you.
And the other is to be healthy, health and wellness for us, our loved ones, our neighbors, our communities. And so I really measure the success of what we do based on health and wellness of our residents.
In land use, we are dedicated to making life better for our residents in Anne Arundel County. Plan 2040 is the guide for the next 20 years to ensure that development is smart, green, and equitable. Smart growth is ultimately health and wellness, because having the ability to walk, development is centered around transit, preserving open space and our natural resources.
Anne Arundel County Department of Recreation and Parks' mission statement is to create opportunities to enjoy life, explore nature, and restore well-being. We have athletic programs, recreational programs, child care services. There's something there for everyone, and we make life better.
In Anne Arundel County, the Department of Health, we are here to prevent, promote, and protect the health of all people in Anne Arundel County and people who visit as well. So our Office of Health Equity and Racial Justice was established when we were looking at what was happening in our county and in the world. And what we saw was persistent disparities in health outcomes based on race, ethnicity, gender, income, and even geography. And so we declared in this county racism as a public health issue in November of 2019. And we formed this Office of Health Equity and Racial Justice to address those issues and advance them.
The Anne Arundel County Police Department was founded in 1937. The agency is very progressive. All of our police officers are fully trained wearing a body-worn camera. We have 2 professors who've come in to help us journey through the history of policing and how policing has impacted communities of color. Having conversations with a facilitator about race and equity and diversity and inclusion, just so that we better understand one another. We have our crisis intervention team where we partner a police officer with a licensed clinician. They respond to these critical calls for service where people are suffering some type of behavioral or mental health crises. So we essentially see them through to any resources that they may require, whether it be a psychologist or drug treatment for longer periods of time. So our team was named the crisis intervention team internationally. That's a huge recognition. So we're asked to go to various police departments to help establish their very own crisis intervention team. There are times where our county departments will overlap, and we have a great working relationship between, OEM and fire. Preety Emmerich, we're rendering or offering assistance to help folks through those moments.
The Office of Emergency Management coordinates the planning, response, and recovery to natural and man-made disasters. That involves a couple of steps. Number 1, in the planning process, making sure we have plans ready. Number 2, we exercise and train with our county agencies. Number 3, when it is time to respond, we activate our Emergency Operations Center. And then that's where all the county agencies come in and coordinate the response. And then the 4th step is really the recovery process. So after the response is done, there's still a lot of cleanup work. There's still a lot of community help that's needed and making sure all the county agencies are involved. One of our newest resources is Pepper the Preparedness Pup. We really want to make sure that children understand that to be prepared is the best thing. So to teach them different situations in very simple terms.
Today we are learning about thunderstorms. Do you know what to do during a thunderstorm?
It's just the beginning steps of how to be prepared.
Another thing that we all agree on is that there should be economic opportunity for everyone. As a lifelong business person myself, I'm very aware of the fact that what we do for our residents is possible only if the business community is behind it. The businesses are our partners, and together, everything positive we do for our community is helping the quality of life that people of all ages and all income levels need and want. Those are things that we can deliver in Anne Arundel County, and that's what makes us the best place for all.
All right, well, thank you for joining us for this town hall tonight. This is the last of 7. We have one more after this in a couple weeks in Spanish. So the budget officer and I are studying our Spanish, and we'll be fluent by then, I hope. But first, that video that you just saw was put together by the International City Managers Association for their annual conference. And they came to us because they were impressed by some of the things that were going on here, and they put this together at their expense. And I thought it was so good at targeting what I feel is most important in our budget, that it would be a nice little intro for these town halls. So if you've seen it before, it means you've been at another town hall, and thanks for bearing with us. So I am here with your councilwoman, Amanda Fiedler, and welcome, Amanda. And I think she likes these, I hope, as much as I like these. They're great because we give you a little bit of a picture of what the budget process looks like and where we stand, but then we listen and we hear from the same people at the same time, so we can then confer about the budget after that and figure out what the priorities are. And this budget is going to be like every other budget, really, really hard, tough decisions to make with limited resources. So it's not my favorite time of year having to make those decisions, but I do like that we hear from you first, then we hear from our departments, then we put together a budget that goes to the council. So please know that things that get brought up in these town halls often do get funded. Sometimes it's a brand new idea we hadn't even heard of that comes out in these budget town halls. So it's worth your participation. So I'm going to turn it over to your councilwoman, who will have a few words. Then we'll have a slide presentation with the help of our budget officer, and then we'll hear from you. So Councilwoman Fiedler.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. I appreciate that. And yes, I do look forward to this evening. I think it's an important part of the process. But let me just start by thanking everyone who is here tonight and taking time out of your busy schedules. I know this is a busy time of year with families and in households. So I really do look forward to hearing from everyone tonight. As I mentioned, this is an important part of the process because our budget is primarily funded with your tax dollars. So, in the past, we've heard from residents and groups on issues that we weren't aware of. For instance, animal control, they came to us at our last in-person town hall and shared with us concerns over kennel gates in animal care and control. And without those folks coming out in the drove of purple shirts, we would not have been aware of this issue. And we also learned about the need and desire from both our law enforcement and residents for the police body worn camera program. And both of those are examples of initiatives that I think were important investments from our county and for our county. In the past 3 years here in District 5, we've seen some really exciting projects come to fruition. The Broadneck Trail has slowly but surely broken ground, and we'll see some more groundbreaking hopefully here in the spring. Don't worry, there will be a community meeting in advance of that construction. And we have also seen, thanks to the county executive forwarding the Jumpers Hole project, that is a project for pedestrian bikers, and we have seen that kind of move its way up in the budget. And I'm glad that it's a year in advance of when it was initially slated to go into the budget. So thank you, County Executive, for that. I'm also excited about legislation that we've seen in the past year that's going to improve fiscal stability and accountability, including an increased maximum to the rainy day fund that was introduced by my colleague Jessica Hare, but it was supported by the entire council. It passed unanimously. And then we recently passed a bill that gives oversight to the council with the expenditures of Federal Care Act funds above $500,000. I pursued that with 2 bills, and thankfully the second got over the finish line, and I appreciate the county executive doing a signing of that bill. I think it's an important measure, and I was happy to have their support. And then, of course, with every budget, there are competing needs, as the county executive mentioned, that we have to consider. And when I think of those considerations, I never forget those residents who are aging and want to age here in Anne Arundel County. They are retiring or already retired. Being a third generation of my own family who lives and resides here in Anne Arundel County, I know that the cost of living here after retirement is a real concern, but everything is a concern for all generations, right? This is your money, and that's why it's important that we hear from you. So I really look forward to hearing your priorities this evening. And again, I thank you for joining us.
Great. Well, hello, everybody. I'm your friendly neighborhood budget officer, Chris Trumbauer. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of a quick presentation here. So allow me a minute to get it up. And here we are. So we're going to walk you through a few slides. This is just an introduction to buy me some time as I get ready. It's a budget message from County Executive Pittman. You can find this on the website. But here's the good stuff. We are right in the middle of budget preparation time, and that's important because we want to hear your comments when there is still time to incorporate them into the budget. So you can see we're just at the end of January now, the first day of February, and there's still most of the process to go. This will culminate when we introduce the proposed budget this year. That's April 29th. And the council will get 45 days to deliberate on it, pass amendments, work with the auditor to really look under the hood, and hopefully they will take a final vote on the budget by June 15th in accordance with the charter. And then, of course, the budget goes into effect at the beginning of the fiscal year, and that is July 1st. Then we start the process all over again. Here's where our revenue comes from. So on the left, you see those big stacked bars, horizontal bars. Those are the proportional amounts of these different revenue sources. The 2 big ones are property taxes and our local income tax. Everything else is comparatively small, but still an important component of the county's overall revenue package. You can see there's a bunch of different sources. State shared revenue is partly what we get from the casino at Maryland Live. Licensings and permits is pretty self-explanatory, but each of those adds up to what our total budget is, $1.873 billion in the current year, which is fiscal year 22. Here's the other side of the books. This is where the money goes. The big bar there is our friends at the Board of Education. So they get about $897 million to operate the school system, which is important priority, of course. And then you see some of our other core units, public safety and human services and land use. The 3 at the end of the list, community college, library, and the court system, those are what we call our component units. So they have a little bit more independence in how they operate, but still get the majority of their funding from the county government. Here's just a little deeper dive on our education. So we basically write a check to the board for $784.7 million this year, and then they implement that and they spend it as the board. But there's a couple other county sources that we also do in support of education. So $96.6 million, that's the debt service, that's interest we pay on our bonds to build capital projects. And then 15.5 for our school health officers and nurses, 8.4 for school safety, that's crossing guards and student resource officers. So that's where we total it all up and you get the 896 number. That's over half, that's 51% of the total county budget when we look at recurring revenue. So big chunk of the pie there and an important part of the pie. So I'm going to turn it back over to the county executive to walk us through some budget highlights of the current fiscal year.
So one of the things I appreciate about our budget office is that they are pretty conservative in their budgeting. And a good measure of that is how much money is left at the end of the year. And fortunately, each of the years that we've done budgets, there has been a surplus, a significant surplus. And the second year was the year when the COVID projections of the economy were that there was going to be a major downturn, and we tightened our belts that year A lot of folks didn't get raises, but then the economy did better than was expected. And so one of the things that we've invested that money in is for the future in case the economy does not do as well. So Councilwoman Fiedler mentioned the rainy day fund, and we needed legislation to be able to increase the amount that we put in there because we got to the max that's allowed by our own county law, where we've got a bill before the council to increase that again to get to that new max. And so we've increased significantly the rainy day fund. And then we also started putting more into our pension fund by estimating future rate of return at a lower level in case the economy doesn't do as well. And the bond rating agencies love both of those things. We have a AA bond rating from one agency, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to get that up to AAA this year, which helps us on our interest rates when we borrow. The other thing is debt affordability on our capital budget. The budget in the year before I came in had the county spending $75 million more than was considered affordable for our capital budget for debt. And we got that down this year to zero. And in addition to that, we're putting a lot of upfront money into our capital budget. So we call it pay as you go. And we, instead of borrow, it's like a down payment on a project on a house. And so we're doing more of that because we've got the revenues and we've got the surpluses from previous years for that. Next slide. Oh, public safety. So I say this all the time that I do believe that government was invented by human beings at some point to protect the people that it serves and as its most fundamental obligation. So we've done a lot both for police and fire and emergency management and detention, all of our public safety agencies, but particularly in the police department, we've increased pay and staffing levels, expanded the crisis intervention teams that won the national or the global award. We need more of that in this day and age, unfortunately, and expanded our community services bureau. In the fire department, we've increased not only staffing and pay also, but apparatus and then the number of paramedics that we have. So that's an expensive and long training. And going from 14 to 42 new paramedics has been a big step and well-timed with the pandemic. And I do have to say that our violent crime has went down 11% last year, while the region and the country were going up significantly. And I believe it's because our officers have done a fantastic job, but the morale was there because we support them and we've given them the technology and the resources that they need. Got a long way to go. They'll tell you that the reason that we've had to increase so much is because it was so low before, and we do have a long way to go, and we need to continue to increase those staffing levels. So next slide. Education obviously is our future, and it's also probably the best economic development tool we have is to have great schools. And so in this last budget, we did 35 new classroom teachers, 15 behavioral health specialists, but and funded the Board of Ed's teacher compensation request. The thing that I probably am most proud of is that teachers did not get the annual step increases that they were promised in their contracts, starting with the last recession, but then it continued. So we had teachers 8 years behind on their steps, huge amount of lost income to those teachers. Over the last 3 years, we have restored that funding so that they were finally made whole this year. And I know that we have more work to do to make sure that our teachers are paid a livable wage and are competitive with the region. But it's top priority for us. Next slide. Infrastructure is something else that I think both political parties have said in recent years. Before the last election, even the one before that, Anne Arundel County was behind on infrastructure and needed to step up on public safety and education. And on infrastructure, we did that permanent public improvements fund that did $250 million in bonds in our first budget, and it's really set us up well for federal funds that will be coming, and in particular, transportation. I'm now the chair of the Baltimore Regional Transportation Board, and we look at federal funding and what the plans are for that. And one of the things we did was we put money up front, county money, to attract the state to invest in our worst traffic bottlenecks. So we now have a contract with the state, and we'll be working on what that exactly is going to look like as they do their planning. We have to go at their pace, unfortunately, because Route 2, Route 3, Central Avenue, they're their roads, but we did put our own money in, and that's what brought them to the table. And in fact, of the state's top 10 scoring transportation projects by their rankings. 6 of them are from Anne Arundel County. So we're about 10% of the state's population. So you expect 1, but we actually got 6 in there. So we're proud of that. Great relationship with the folks at the Maryland Department of Transportation. Fire stations, including Cape St. Clair, is in the 6-year plan, 5 of them for either rebuilds or new stations. And then we're keeping up to pace on our school construction plan, which is a very ambitious plan that we absolutely need to modernize our schools. So that's moving forward. And next slide. We created stormwater strike team within inspections and permits so that we could better monitor not only on-site stormwater failures, but the streams and the areas around them, and come back and then, of course, try to hold these builders and developers accountable when the stormwater systems fail. We now have a bonding requirement that has been put in place, but that strike team has been very effective and useful. We created a resilience authority in our last budget. So we're in the process of hiring a director and a financial officer. And what this does is it takes our resilience plan that we've worked on with the University of Maryland to improve public infrastructure where we know that sea level rise, storm surge in particular are going to destroy it eventually. And so we know that there are roads that need to be, or in bridges and some public buildings that are going to need to be replaced. And the Resilience Authority takes it off the budget so that it can be financed with the beneficiaries of that area. Sometimes it's businesses, sometimes it's federal money, and we can bond that for long-term investment. So I think it's going to save the county money in the long run. And then we have our greenways plan, green infrastructure plan to protect 30% of the land mass of the county by the year 2030. It's an aggressive plan coming before the council soon. And then we're doing work, pretty aggressive work on our vehicle charging infrastructure and working to get the county's vehicles to all electric as well. Lots more on the environment, but you've probably heard about some of that and we can talk about it if you like. And then the capital budget is where we often hear in these town halls about what people want, and we'll be listening on that. Rec and Parks is probably the most popular and probably the most important at the community level. And you can see there's some improvements that have been made. Finishing the Broadneck Trail is top priority, and all the bike trails and hiking, walking trails in the county. Getting that network completed is one of my major goals. So I think we're jumping now over to Chris again. Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to take the baton back for just a second. And we've been talking about the current year budget in fiscal year 22, but I know what you're all thinking. You're thinking, hey, how's it look for the proposed budget coming up? And so this is where we want to give you a little bit of taste of what we're looking at right now. So far, knock on wood, revenues are coming in strong, a little bit better than we projected. And as the county executive mentioned, we always try and be conservative about that, and that's good. And so the revenue is coming back healthy. We do have the fiscal recovery funds that we got back in May. We're scheduled to get another tranche of funds this coming May. And as we look forward to what's the budget going to look like next year, we are forecasting that revenues will be strong. However, because of high inflation and other pressures on wages and costs, the concern is that those strong revenues will be offset by some of those other pressures. So we have to be very careful on how we put the budget together. One other good thing is that the county has a healthy fund balance, and those are essentially unspent funds from previous years that carry over, and that is a result of the fiscal responsible decisions that we made over the last couple of years. And we can use those funds on what we call one-time expenditures, which are things like equipment or putting it into the capital budget. But what we don't want to do is use those on things that have a recurring cost, because they're only good once you spend them. They don't come back next year. So we don't want to build a fiscal cliff for ourselves. Okay, so if we're looking, I'm gonna click over here. Looking at the expectations on expenditures, every year we have certain things that just the cost goes up. There's nothing we can do about it. So, our debt service may increase. We have to do bigger contributions to health insurance and pension plans. We obviously have to negotiate with our labor groups and give them fair compensation packages. And then we have what we call discretionary increases. This is how much funding we're able to give to our friends at the Board of Education, the community college, other component units, and also what our own departments request for supplemental programs and initiatives. So they bring good ideas to us. We hear about some of those ideas in these town halls, and we want to support those to the extent that we're able to under our affordability guidelines. So this is one of my favorite slides. This shows where Anne Arundel County residents are for our property tax rate compared with everybody else in the state. So each of these bars is a different county. We're the yellow one. You notice that we're over towards the right. We're the 7th lowest in Maryland, and by far the lowest in the central Maryland area. Most of our other neighbors are up above $1, and we are at 0.933. And you can see our friends in Baltimore City are way up there. They kind of wreck the y-axis there, but there's a lot going on. But we only have 6 other counties with a lower property tax rate than us, and we're very proud of that. And if we look at income tax rate, then hey, we're doing even better there. If you want a lower income tax rate in Maryland, you got to move to Garrett, Talbot, or Worcester County. The state allows counties to set a maximum of 3.2%. About half the counties have that maximum. In Anne Arundel County, we get a pretty good deal. We've got 2.81%. So that's the 4th lowest in the state. I'm going to turn it back over to the county exec. He can talk a little bit about our fiscal recovery funds.
Yeah, so the CARES Act was the $100 million that came to address the needs due to COVID. And a lot of that was health and testing and all the work that was done as a direct result of COVID, but a lot of it was economic as well, the economic impacts. So food distribution and business assistance, where we put out between CARES and ARPA, we put out $32 million to our small businesses. And then, so that's all accounted for. You can look up with some detail, and I'll show you how in just a minute, how that money was spent. It's gone. And then the next group is the American Rescue Plan, and it's $112 million to the county. Half came in May of 21, and the other half will come in May of 22. And if you go to the next slide, you can see a little bit of a breakdown. The blue is stuff that was a result of the pandemic, but it's going through our departments, and in some cases actually paying some of our staff, public safety staff, to do things related to the pandemic. And then the yellow on the other side is health and wellness, more direct impact of COVID, food assistance down there in green that continues with our food distribution systems. Next slide. So Open Arundel is, you heard about this, hopefully you've heard about it already, but you heard about it in the video. It's where you can go in and you can look at a lot of information. There's mapping stuff about your community, where we're spending money. Every department's got performance metrics that you can look up in here. But then the next slide is something that's coming. You may remember that for our first 3 budgets, we had a budget tool where you could go in and sort of, oh my goodness, it's changed, it's new. You could go in and maybe there's a big announcement tonight, huh, Chris?
No, I just need to sign in, that's all.
Oh.
You see, it logged me off, I guess.
Okay. Chris knows what's going on here. I was very frustrated that the tool didn't give you enough detail, that you couldn't really go in there and make changes in the budget like you wanted to and get into the nitty gritty. And so we had all these consultants coming in offering to charge us a whole lot of money to create a tool where you could do that and get into the actual budget. And our brilliant team over at Budget put this together in their spare time. And but it's not quite available. I thought Chris was going to announce that it's online and available. Hopefully very soon it will be. They want to make sure that the security measures are in place and you don't actually go in and change the budget in the real budget, and that this is separated from it. But Chris will show you what it does.
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. County Executive. So this is our new tool. This was developed by Stephen Turow, who's our Assistant Budget Officer. And like the county exec said, this is built on a platform. It's called Tableau, and we're actively working with the Tableau consultants to make this accessible for the public. But right now, we're going to give you a little live demo. So What you can do is you can look on either the revenue or the expenditure side. So we're going to look at revenue. These are the same bars, just in a different format that we saw in an earlier slide. But what's cool here is it's interactive. So you can actually click on these. If you want to look at, for instance, license and permits, we're going to click on that and you can see all the different components. So you can see, hey, here's our liquor fees, and here's our public space permit fees. And oh, look, we have animal control fees. And you can actually see the total amounts and what percentage they make up of that component. And you can look at all of our different revenue sources for that. Want to show you the other side of the books on the expenditures. This is where the money goes. So on the left is all of our different departments. You can click on any of them and get some more detail. So as the county exec knows, I usually like to go into Rec and Parks. They've got some interesting things. At the top here, you see the different budget objects. So these are the categories. So personal services, contractual services here, supplies and materials, and you can hover over any of those and get more detail. On the bottom, this is how the departments are broken up into bureaus. So you can see Rec and Parks has 4 bureaus. They've got the Parks Bureau, the Recreation Bureau, the golf courses is their own bureau, and then basically the administration. So if we wanted to look, for instance, at the Parks Bureau, we can click on that, and then it gives you further details. So here's where most of the money is. It's on salaries for all the folks that operate the parks. But again, you can look at supplies and materials. Capital outlay supports the different capital projects, and then grants and contributions that they send out. And this gives you a little historical picture of the budget as it goes up and down over the last 6 years. So you can see a lot to play around with. If you are a budget wonk and you want to learn more about the county budget, you will have an opportunity pretty shortly when we make this live, and you can dive into the budget to your heart's content. So we're pretty excited about that.
And that's pretty much it. You can go to aacounty.org/yourbudget to add any input that you don't manage to get in tonight, or if you think of something later, and also to take a look at past budgets and anything you need to have a voice in all of this. With that, I believe I'm turning it over to Reese Peak, your community engagement constituent services representative, to lead us through the public testimony. And just note that both the councilwoman and I will be listening and taking notes, and we won't respond to each comment, but we will speak up at the end with some summaries of what we heard.
Great. Excuse me. Hi, everyone. My name is Reese Peak. I'm the Community Engagement Officer for District 5. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to give their public testimony, and you'll see a timer put on the screen to help you keep, there it is, to help keep track of time. If you'd like to speak, use the raise hand function on Zoom at the bottom of your screen. Just raise your hand and I'll see that, and I will call out individuals in groups of 3 to give their public testimony. And like the county executive said, he and the councilwoman won't respond to every comment, but they will summarize at the end, and they look forward to hearing from you guys. So the first 3 individuals I'm going to call are Heather Ravenbachish, John Corin, and then Brian Holtzlander. So Heather, you are good to go.
Good evening. I'm Heather Ravenbach, and I'm the manager at the Broadneck Library. I'm testifying this evening in support of the library's budget, as well as to urge your support of a supplemental request that can improve the academic future for countless preschoolers. We are seeking to fund we're seeking funding to initiate a critical outreach program called the Center for Community Engagement. This program seeks to reach people in the greatest need who cannot easily get to the libraries. One of the program's main goals is to increase kindergarten readiness. As you know, less than half of our county's children are ready for kindergarten, and children of color fare far worse. Libraries have been teaching early literacy skills for decades inside our buildings. Our story times for babies, toddlers, and preschoolers focus on the 5 practices of kindergarten readiness: sing, talk, read, write, and play. We also offer bilingual programs for these age groups. Early literacy programs teach parents and caregivers to become their child's first teacher and make learning fun. In fiscal year 2021, nearly 47,000 people attended these programs, and that's in a pandemic. We believe the creation of a Center for Community Engagement can build upon our past success and impact kindergarten readiness by reaching people where they are. And countless studies have shown that school readiness leads to greater academic success, as well as positive health and social outcomes later in life. The library has asked for $4.1 million for 3,000 square feet of space, staff, and 8 vehicles. We can also start smaller, though the full impact will be with the complete proposal being funded. I urge your support for our request. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. John Corrin is next.
Thank you, Reese. John Corrin, I live in Severna Park, but I speak as president of Bicycle Advocates for Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. I couldn't be more pleased that both Councilwoman Fiedler and County Exec Pittman talked about the trail network, the Broad Neck Trail, and so forth. We are doing extraordinarily well. Bike Commission is working hand in hand with county staff to build out this network. We've done very, very well getting grants. We've over 10 million in grants, state and federal sources in the last 5 years or so, but we can do even better. We have to move our projects through the pipeline from study to design to construction ready faster in order to take advantage of the vast amount of federal infrastructure money that is now coming available. Last year, we had to skip a year on pursuing transportation alternatives programs, which is multi-million-dollar construction funding, because we did not have a project construction ready. That may happen again this year. So I urge a little bit more spending on staff, transportation, public works, rec and parks, so that we can do a better job of completing the projects for which we're getting grant funding and get the next projects ready so that we can get even more. There's just going to be so much funding coming. We've got to gear up. I'm pushing our state SHA friends to streamline their processes and work hand in hand with us so we can bring more money into this county. The trail network that you mentioned, about 50 miles is complete. We've got about 30 miles to go, but it's just taking too long. We can do better. And you all know I am your partner every step of the way in going and getting more of that money so we can see this trail network come to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Brian Holtzlander is next.
Hello, thank you. This is Brian Holtzlander representing Anne Arundel County Professional Firefighters. We want to first thank County Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Fiedler for their continued support, and to thank all the citizens who made incredible sacrifices over the last 2 years to keep themselves and their neighbors safe and allow us to do the job that we're trained to do. We're also grateful for the previous budgets that allowed us to do what we're trained to do. We had the right PPE to fight COVID, and all that started in budgets just like this. But the pandemic's taken its toll, and we're losing paramedics, and we need to train the next generation. So we look forward to your support in funding the training for those advanced life support personnel that are so vital to our community. And specifically, we'd like to talk about some needs right here in our district, in Early Heights specifically. We still don't have the adequate amount of firefighters, 3 or 4, that go out on every call. There's only 2 70% of the time. So if there's an emergency after 5 o'clock or on the weekend, the firefighters that arrive there first will not have the adequate amount of personnel to get the hose to the door, to the fire, cut the person out of the car that we need. And we really look forward to that being a big priority. It is essential to the safety of the citizens that we're sworn to protect. And it's essential to the safety of one another. And we've seen only all too clear how quickly things can go wrong. So thank you again for your support. We look forward to continuing to work with you and serving our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. The next 3 are Mike Shire, Walter Reeder, and Sandra Bishop. So Mike, the floor is yours.
Good evening. I'm Mike Shire from the Anne Arundel County Fraternal Order of Police, representing the active and retired police officers of Anne Arundel County. First, I want to thank Mr. Pittman and Councilwoman Fiedler for the opportunity to speak here tonight. Our county's police officers are out on the street, pandemic or not, providing unparalleled service to our communities. On a daily basis, Anne Arundel County Police prove wrong the national rhetoric that attempts to vilify our police officers as we work with our communities to improve the quality of life for our county. We're thankful for the support we receive from our community members. As the county executive mentioned, public safety is the most fundamental role of government, and despite great progress digging out of the hole created by prior administration's failure to invest in public safety, there is still more work to be done. Despite all of this, over the past year, we're proud that our honorable police officers have held back the tide of increasing crime that surrounds us and actually decreased violent crime in our county. We do this with staffing levels, which, despite substantial gains, are still below our neighboring comparable jurisdictions. That means that our police officers are burdened with the responsibility of performing like 2 or 3 officers from other jurisdictions. Our officers live too close to the edge of exhaustion due to a long history of understaffing. We have many facilities which are long overdue for replacement and reinvestment. For instance, our firearms range, where our county's law enforcement officers train on how to make legal and moral decisions about using deadly force, is quite literally falling apart. Band-aids are no longer cutting it, and it's going to be a very bad story when the range completely fails and we can no longer train our officers and maintain their state certifications. The cost of doing business, of keeping our communities safe, has increased as we work to implement and improve our programs like the body-worn camera program that Councilwoman Fiedler mentioned, and we have many new state mandates to implement. All these things should not be mistaken with simple spending. As the county executive calls it, this is investment in the safety and security of our communities that pays dividends in so many ways. It's vitally important that we have the support of our citizens and our elected officials in their rhetoric, their legislation, and of course, the county's budget. I'm sure everyone agrees with the county executive sentiment that public safety is the most important role of our government, and our collective hope is that all of our elected officials recognize and remember the vital role that public safety continues to play in making Anne Arundel County the best place for all. And we thank everyone for their support.
Thank you, Mike. Walter Reeder.
Thank you, Mr. Peak. Walter Ryder from Edgewater Lane in Severna Park. County Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Fiedler, thank you for the opportunity to be heard on this. The very uplifting video that started the program talked about 530 miles of shoreline that we enjoy in the county. And I implore you to continue to fund the opening up of that shoreline so that all the citizens can enjoy it. We've got some great assets owned by the county: Beverly Triton, Mayo Beach, the South River Farm Park, Weinberg, on the Magathie River, Spriggs Farm Park, Beechwood Park. On the Severn, we've got Valentine Creek, we've got Severn Run, which is some state property, but there's some county impediments to folks using that. And I implore you to really follow through with those projects and open up those areas, public boat ramps. That would also be awesome. And I'm disappointed that we don't have a video hookup, because I do have a visual aid here, and it's one of my favorites. It's a private property sign that's at the head of the entrance to the Sullivan's Cove natural area. That's open space property that, under the terms of its acquisition, is supposed to be available for recreation. It is, if you ignore the private property sign that sits at the top of that entrance. We're doing a great job with the parks, the bike trails. It's fantastic. We're making great progress. And I really hope that we can take advantage of the sound fiscal health of the county and follow through and increase the water access for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra Bishop.
Hi, my name is Sandra Bishop. I'm a resident of Manhattan Beach and Severna Park, and this is my first time giving testimony at a county meeting. I want to speak to active transportation, specifically by bike, and I find it interesting that this actually touches on 3 of the key areas that the county executive mentioned in the opening, specifically health and wellness, the environment, and equity. First, thank you for the B&A Trail and the funding for the Broad Neck Trail. Those are wonderful recreational assets, but I'm speaking to using bikes for transportation, and we need more connectors between neighborhoods, schools, shopping, etc., to connect to those multi-use bike trails, and also more infrastructure that get people to the places they want to go. We also need for that infrastructure to be designed for all ages and all abilities. The Move Anne Arundel, the Vision Zero plan, and the new National Roadway Safety Strategy put out by the U.S. Department of Transportation all emphasize protecting vulnerable road users and to consider equity in all transportation projects. For our specific situation, I have a 23-year-old daughter who would like to ride her electric trike to and from work. She has cerebral palsy and will never be able to drive a car. She could commute to work if there was safe infrastructure along Benfield Road. Benfield Road is a minor arterial utilized by individuals going to the shopping centers where the Safeway at Benfield is, Robinson Crossing at the other end, and the Severna Park Middle School, Severna Park High School. It's a road that could be utilized by many bike users for many purposes if it was done in a way that was safe and equitable for all riders. I hope that the county can find ways to improve the bike transportation system throughout the county for all users. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers are Deb Howe, Randy Bevers, and Britt Griswold.
Good evening. My name is Deb Howe. I am a resident of District 5 and a member of the Annapolis Symphony Orchestra's Board of Trustees. The symphony is in the first year of a 5-year plan to bring more music to more people in more places. Some of the ways that the symphony is increasing access to music include the Annapolis Symphony Academy, where we have given approximately $70,000 in scholarships just this year to students who would otherwise be unable to afford music lessons. And we're also performing more concerts here in Anne Arundel County than we have in previous years. With the county's support, one of those concerts that we have performed in the past has been at Quiet Waters Park on Labor Day. I have been there numerous times with my friends, my family, and even my dogs. I hope you've been there as well. It's a free concert that is just a ton of fun for the community. This free concert costs the symphony approximately $30,000 to put on. And we have had the generous support of the county in the past, and we are asking for the county's continued support. This year and in future years, we want to perform more often in Quiet Waters Park. And if we spent $40,000 instead of $30,000 on this concert, we would be able to perform both evenings of that weekend, both a Saturday and a Sunday night concert. So we are asking for additional support from the county to increase access to music in Anne Arundel County and at Quiet Waters specifically for free for the community. As we bring more music to more people in more places, we are excited that we can just share the love of music with our community and continue to have the support of the county. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next is Randy Bevers.
Good evening, County Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Fiedler. My name is Randy Bevers, and I am the president of the Cape St. Clair Volunteer Fire Company. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. We are excited to be moving forward with the construction of the new Cape St. Clair Fire Station in fiscal year 23. This new station will be a gateway to our community and provide a safe, comfortable home for our first responders for the next 50 plus years. We support Chief Wolford's proposed fire department budget, including funds to replace aging apparatus. Keeping frontline fire engines, trucks, and ambulances in a regular replacement cycle is critical because aging vehicles require more maintenance, which takes them out of service, putting more strain on the fleet. In the near future, we will also need to be replacing Fireboat 19, which is almost 20 years old. It serves as the primary response boat for central Anne Arundel County and an important source of water to fight fires across our county. We look forward to moving ahead with the station build and ensuring that our apparatus continues to remain in prime condition as we continue to serve the residents of Cape St. Clair and the surrounding areas and make it truly the best place for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Britt Griswold is next.
Hello. Thank you, Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Fiedler for hosting this event. I noticed in the slides that you were planning to add $1 million of additional money for green space purchase during sort of the green infrastructure initiative. The need is great. Land will not be getting cheaper in the future, and 30% by 2030 is sort of a minimal floor for anything like supporting a healthy environment. I would like you to seriously consider adding additional money to this year's coming budget beyond the 1 million you're considering. I think an additional million would be very helpful, and I hope you will consider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next three speakers are Latoya Congolo, Sue McDonough, Susan. So Latoya, the floor is yours. Latoya, you're unmuted, but I can't hear you, unfortunately. I might give it another second. Okay. Since I can't hear you, I'm gonna move to Sue McDonough, Susan, and Lisa Aerosmith, and then we'll come back to you. So Sue McDonough, the floor is yours.
Hello, Mr. Pittman and Ms. Fiedler. My name is Dr. Susan McDonough. I'm a District 5 resident, and I'm speaking to you tonight as one of 3 veterinarians who are among the members of our county government's Animal Welfare Council. The council is responsible for promoting the humane treatment of domestic animals and wildlife in Anne Arundel County. In addition to my own spay-neuter veterinary practice, I'm also the contract veterinarian who for more than 10 years has done the spay-neuter surgery for Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control. That's about 1,300 to 1,500 animals, and it's rising. That's per year. The council is currently developing a community animal response team. The working mission statement for this team is to collaboratively bring together public and private resources, agencies, and infrastructure in Anne Arundel County that could help respond and meet the needs of animals and their caregivers in the case of a disaster. Basically, if there's a disaster in Anne Arundel County, there would be a team already assembled that could spring to the aid of both county pet owners and animal care and control. While the council is only in the early stages of this project, we want to encourage our county to find items for animal care and control that support helping pets and their owners during a disaster. For example, one such item would be a livestock trailer for the shelter, which amazingly does not have one. Not only would a livestock trailer be invaluable during an emergency, it will be useful on a day-to-day basis whenever the shelter needs to transport animals, such as pigs, sheep, and goats, and the occasional horse. Thank you for considering our requests.
Thank you. Susan is the next speaker. No last name.
Susan Youngs?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Hi, good evening. My name is Sue Youngs. My husband and I live in the community of Manverly in District 5. I'm a longtime volunteer at Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control. I testified last year about the urgent need for a full-time veterinarian at the shelter. As you have heard from other speakers this year, this vital position still has not been filled. An attempt to hire a part-time vet has failed because a job without benefits is unattractive at a time when vets are in such high demand. Our number one request continues to be that the county have a full-time vet and shelter staff. Other specific requests we have this year are, number one, better equipment to better equip the shelter's clinic so a staff veterinarian can safely perform surgeries, especially dental cleanings and extractions. Sadly, many homeless animals require such procedures to make them comfortable and more adoptable. Second, make a part-time behaviorist position full-time. That person could assist with some of the duties now performed by just one person solely responsible for coordinating rescues, volunteers, fosters, and special events. These activities are all integral in providing the necessary services for the animals as well as the public. And then to reiterate what Dr. Schuh said about a van to haul non-domestic animals from the shelter. And this does happen. Pigs, goats, and other stray non-domestic creatures. Finally, we ask that you begin to plan for a new shelter to replace the existing outdated, poorly laid out structure. This is an ambitious but necessary project that will put our county on par with surrounding counties that have modern, state-of-the-art buildings that benefit animals and people alike. Thank you from all of us who volunteer at Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control for everything you've done to improve the lives of the county's pets so far. Please keep it up. Thank you.
Or I think I might have been muted there, but Lisa Aerosmith is the next person to speak.
Hello, my name is Lisa Aerosmith, and I'm the chair of the Public Water Access Committee. I'd like to thank County Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Fiedler for this opportunity to speak in favor of improved public water access for the 80% of county residents who do not live in water privileged homes or water privileged communities. I'd like to speak in favor of 4 projects: Valentine Creek in District 4, Spriggs Farm Park in District 5, and Beechwood Park and Weinberg Park in District 3. Right now, Jonas Green Park is the only public water access point on the Severn. Valentine Creek on the upper Severn would be a valuable second point of access for the public. As I've discussed with Rec and Parks Director Lays, water access advocates are willing and eager to participate as stakeholders in the Valentine Creek feasibility study. Second, I would like to speak in favor of expediting the shoreline improvement at Spriggs Farm Park. It's a park that's beloved and heavily used by windsurfers, kayak anglers, kayakers, stand-up paddleboarders, and bird watchers. So please expedite that project and make sure the existing uses are continued and made better. 3, I'd like to speak in favor of Beechwood Park. The Magothy River Association has done a lot of heavy lifting in that park. It's time really for the county to take up that effort and improve the park and make it much easier to use for everyone. And 4th, I'd like to speak in favor of a pocket change project at Weinberg Park. With an investment of about $1,000 and some volunteer labor, a usable kayak and SUP launch could be created. Excuse me, this is not stage fright, it's just laryngitis. At Weinberg Park that would give people access to sheltered Rock Creek and White Pond. Thank you.
Thank you. This is your last call for making comments after Latoya, because she's the last person who has her hand raised. If anyone else would like to, after she speaks, there we go.
Okay, can you all hear me?
Latoya, I can hear you.
Wonderful.
There you go. You can.
All right, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, County Executive Pittman, and thank you, Councilwoman Fiedler for listening to our testimony tonight. My name is Latoya Congolo. I'm a Severna Park resident. I'm a licensed mental health therapist, and I'm also the candidate for the House of Delegates for District 31B. I have not heard much about behavioral health and how it's taken a toll on our community. What I have heard is that there's $8.4 million designated to keep crossing guards and SROs. I want to stand in support of our SROs because at this time it is critical. Our children are in a mental health crisis and we need to support and keep them in our county. Right now in Anne Arundel County, we have a 70% increase in residents seeking mental health treatment. We have an average of more than 1 overdose a day in our county. We are losing employees. Our grandparents are raising their grandchildren. We need to make sure that we are addressing mental health as a priority, and we need to make every effort to keep our community healthy by making mental health and addictions a priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Tootle, and then Brenda Yarema, and then anyone else, if they would like to raise their hand, this is your last opportunity tonight. So Dan, take it away.
Thank you. I want to thank County Executive Pittman and Ms. Fiedler for work both at the administrative level and at the county council level for some recent actions that have taken place in support of the veterans and military families here in Anne Arundel County. I'm a resident of Severna Park, having being retired from the Navy and living in Severna Park since 1996. The recently established Veterans Services Coordination Center is really wonderful. The strengthening of the County Commission for Veterans, which is done through legislative action, and also for the ballot initiative, which is now on the ballot for this November with regard to placing the commission within the county charter. I'm asking that the county executive take the necessary budgetary, administrative, and legislative steps to establish an office for veterans and military families within Anne Arundel County government for our county in the same manner as that of Prince George's County. The current administrative position is that the Veterans and Military Affairs Liaison part-time position suffices this within Anne Arundel County. The county is home to over 50,000 veterans of military service, not including their family members, a veterans population within Maryland that's second only to a slightly larger number in Prince George's County. We're the only county within Maryland with 3 active military installations, with over 10,000 military personnel living within the county and over 8,000 of their students in our public schools. At this point, the need to our government to strive to have an office with qualified leadership in place to ensure that adequate attention and assistance is provided to more than 14% of our county residents is needed. So please move forward with this objective. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda, your hand was up, now it's down. If you'd like to speak, giving you an opportunity to raise your hand. There we go. And she's the last speaker unless anyone else raises their hand. So Brenda, you are free to make your comments.
So Reese, I'm terribly sorry, but this is actually Amy Leahy.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
I know for some reason I'm on Brenda's Zoom, but I wanted to just talk about a piece of property on Ritchie Highway that is just north of the Food Lion there at Severna Park, and it's Cattail Creek area on the other side of where a lot of restorative project work was done to the tune of $1 million on the other side of Cattail Creek. So what we're looking at is on the opposite side of Ritchie Highway on the west side. There's a piece of property there that the Greater Severna Park Council had actually negotiated to put a lot of that area into open space. And there is a small portion now that is zone commercial. And we are looking at possibly using some program open space money, if that's approved, to be able to purchase that property and incorporate that whole area into what's already owned by the Department of Recreation and Parks. So it would be in preservation, it would protect that whole waterway from Cattail Creek that comes down through the property and underneath Ritchie Highway and over to the east side that goes out into the Magothy River. So this is what I wanted to propose, is that the county be in support of the property being purchased using some program open space money. Greater Severna Park Council has already signed on to this and is in favor of it. So I just wanted to bring that out into the open, and we're hoping that that will be part of the budget in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Public testimony is now concluded. I'm going to hand it back over to County Executive Pittman or Councilwoman Fiedler, whoever wants to jump in first. Councilwoman?
I can go first. Yeah. Thank you very much, Reese. I appreciate that. So thank you for everyone who shared their thoughts and concerns and priorities. I do want to make sure I take an opportunity to address a few of those specifically. I did hear from, let me go back to my notes here. We heard from our animal control representative, veterinarian. That certainly is an area that I've taken special interest in, and I can appreciate the challenges that Animal Care and Control and Friends of Animal Care and Control have. So I look forward to seeing what's in the budget with that regard, because I can absolutely, as a volunteer myself and pet owner, can appreciate the importance of having a veterinarian. I want to make sure that those who were here this evening from our first responders, our public safety, police, I believe they were first, so I'll address them first. I say this at every single PCRC meeting in Pasadena that takes place once a month at Eastern District, and it's public relations, community relations organization supporting our police department. In every meeting, I make a note to say, if you see an officer, thank an officer. We have some of the hardest working law enforcement officers in Anne Arundel County who work every day to get into the community and create relationships that really bring about a sense of honor and pride within the police department, but honor and pride within the community. Our officers go above and beyond every single day. And until you've actually done something like a ride along or experienced it yourself firsthand, you don't really appreciate it. But I've been in those ride alongs, I've talked to officers, and I just can't thank you enough. And to our first responders and the firefighters department, I want to thank you for the work that you've done in the past 2 years now, 2+ years. It hasn't gone unnoticed. And to Ms. Bevers, who was here today, I do want to send my condolences. I know you had a loss recently of one of your firefighters, and that is always difficult. So please understand that I am sending my condolences, and if you could share those with the members of your fire station. We had a lot of important issues brought up tonight and concerns. I appreciate the concern over mental health. That's been a conversation that has been brought up at the council level, both in meetings on legislation and when we sit as the Board of Health. We know that our adolescents have been struggling, especially in the past 2 years. We know that there are warm line calls on the rise. I'd like to see some additional supports for mental health moving forward. We heard about bike trails and connectors to bike trails for all age groups. Music access, especially at Quiet Waters. As a former musician, I do struggle to pick it up from time to time to keep myself musical. I can appreciate that access, because those are the concerts that really inspire the next generation of musicians in our county. And then finally, I want to update on a few items that were mentioned. We do need to move through the project pipeline faster. I get emails very regularly on the Broadneck Trail. And I was happy to share that update in the very beginning that phase 3 is going to hopefully start construction in the spring. But to Mr. Corrin's point, it does take a long time and we do have delays. Some delays we can at the county control with red tape from the state. Sometimes the coordinated effort alone causes delays, but I couldn't agree more that we've got to expedite those a bit faster. And then Ms. Aerosmith commented on the Spriggs Park project, the restoration project. Part of the delay right now, I do want to note, is that MDE has until June 7th to get the Department of Public Works comments on the project. So that is where that project is now, and that's a requirement and a timeline that is established within county and state code. So once that comment is back to DPW, hopefully before June 7th, but that is how long that they have to comment on the proposal for shoreline restoration. And that is all I have. And again, I just thank everyone for taking the time out of your busy evening to share your concerns and priorities with myself and the county executive.
So I want to run through a few things, if you'll bear with me as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight and sharing your thoughts. On libraries, you know, this project that they put together to increase kindergarten readiness, this is something that our Opportunity Gap Commission has taken as a challenge from me, that less than 50% of our kindergartners, when they enter, are assessed as ready. There's an assessment for that. And our Opportunity Gap Commission sees that as a problem. I see it as a problem. The numbers have probably gotten even worse as a result of COVID. And I'm not going to say, you know, how we're going to, whether we're going to fund that project or not, but thank you to everybody in the libraries who already contribute so much to getting these younger kids on the road to reading and getting ready for school. Thank you for those of you who testified on the bikes and the need for more bike trails and safe bike trails. There is a process going on this summer that you can weigh in on. It's the pedestrian and bike master plan update. It's 10 years old and it's being redone. They're calling it Walk and Roll. I will not pantomime that title, but it's interesting that John Corrin said that we need to move the projects faster, and capital projects in general in government are incredibly slow, and it's incredibly frustrating to all of us, whether it's a sidewalk or a bike path. I have talked to Public Works about it recently. And we will be doing an assessment of the process to see whether there's ways where we can speed things up. And I think we're going to lay it out there too, so that the public can see exactly what the process is, because it's this mysterious, really inefficiency. But we have to know where we can speed things up. So we're all going to get a look at that soon. Fire, thank you for your service. I want to note that Anne Arundel County firefighters will be serving in Baltimore tomorrow, as all of the Baltimore firefighters attend the memorial service for their 3 lost comrades. And I will be there as well alongside them. But thank you for sticking together. Thank you for doing the hard work that you do. And of course, in the budget, you're going to be front of mind. And our police officers as well. I think it's positive that the unions for police and fire show up at these town halls, and they're talking not just to me and to Councilwoman Fiedler, but they're talking to the community when they do this. They need the community support in the budget. And, you know, we just saw this week how difficult and dangerous a job it is to be a police officer anywhere. So they deserve our support in the budget. Water access is, I think, one of the best investments that we can make at Rec and Parks, because it connects people to this incredible resource that we have that too few people actually get to experience. And we are working not only at the county level, but with our partners at the state. And Senator Van Hollen actually has a proposal for Chesapeake National Recreation Area that will give us opportunities, if it comes through, to get some federal money in as well, to improve some of the water access sites that we have and increase the numbers of them. Annapolis Symphony Orchestra, if you have not been to Quiet Waters for the summer concert, you should. I was there last year, and you know, I'm more of a rock and roll and other kinds of music. I'm not a symphony guy, I got to admit, but it was great entertainment. And it was much more lively and exciting than I expected. And We will definitely be looking at that proposal to do 2 days rather than one. It looks to me like it makes a lot of sense and it's affordable. So if we can expand that, I'm all for it. Green infrastructure, I'm glad that that got brought up. I agree that $1 million is not much money. That was for last year's budget that we put $1 million in. And I think we're already spending more than that. We're using some other sources of money as well, but we need to do more. And Amy, I liked your, it's the first I heard about this proposal to preserve the land at Cattail Creek. I know how much work has been done in that area to protect the runoff and the green infrastructure that we have already. So we'll definitely be taking a look at that. Let's see. Animal care and control. First of all, thank you, Dr. McDonough, for the veterinary work that you do there and all the animals that you've spayed and neutered. And I can assure you that Councilwoman Fiedler is being honest when she says she's an animal person, because I have talked to her about her guinea pigs, her kids' guinea pigs. My kids also have guinea pigs. We have that in common. And anybody who will put up with cleaning guinea pig cages every day or getting your kids to do it loves these little creatures. And I feel the same way about all animals myself. So I was glad to hear about the disaster preparedness work. I know Preeti Emmerich at our Office of Emergency Management is working on that. And the fact that our Office of Emergency Management is now using Pepper, the preparedness pup, as their tool to engage children in that work suggests to me that it's top of mind for Preeti over there and for the rest of us. So I'm glad you're doing that work. And I think I may know where a livestock trailer can be had. I come from South County, and we actually had a loose pig on our farm, and there was no livestock trailer at Animal Care and Control, but they're around and they're not that expensive. So that's a great idea. Behavioral health, thank you, Latoya, for bringing that up. We have increased the amount of work, but the demand has increased much faster than the resources that we've got. At Crownsville Hospital Center, we've got 4 addiction treatment organizations operating there now. They're serving residents from all across the state. Our big ask to the state of Maryland this year is $30 million to help us get started on turning the state's Crownsville Hospital Center into the county's Crownsville Hospital Memorial Park, which will be a real center to promote and encourage and engage more organizations in mental health services and behavioral health services. And then moving into veterans issues, one of the best ideas and one of the top priorities for that is veterans housing at Crownsville. It's been an idea knocked around for years, but the governor has agreed to transfer Crownsville Hospital Center to Anne Arundel County. We will control its future and its fate. It will be a huge project, and that's why we're asking for state support for it, because it's a state problem that they've left in the heart of our county. But I believe it's going to be one of the most impactful things that this administration does. It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of engagement from residents. But thank you, everybody on the Veterans Affairs Commission, Mr. Tootle in particular, who served on that as well. The work that you've done to get our departments to all have a liaison for veterans, the Veterans Service Coordination work, and the Veterans Hotline, which if you know anybody who's a veteran who needs services of any kind, ask them to call 410-222-3500. And we've got folks in county government who can help connect them to services. So that's all the issues. My hope is that this year, historically, I look back through the votes on county budgets, and they were always 7-0 until this last, I think Councilman Peruka sort of changed that and always voted no for philosophical reasons. And then the last 3 budgets, it's been completely partisan. And I'll tell you that when every council member makes a commitment to one another, that they recognize that the charter requires that we pass a balanced budget, then everybody has an equal voice. Everybody can represent their district equally, and we can all be at the table, and everyone will listen to one another. So I hope we get a 7-0 vote on whatever budget it is that we do this year. I think that's best for all the residents. And thank you all of you for participating in the process. Good evening.